Um, Guys, before I begin, I want to make it very clear. I am not offending anyone, nor am I calling anyone toxic. I genuinely am just asking a question because I want to know, where do I stand? What are the true feelings towards me or towards us over here? Hello guys, welcome, or if you've already seen my channel before, welcome back. I am the Philadelphia Whovian, and for this video, well, as you saw in the title, it's Dear Britain, or Dear British People, British citizens, do you hate us Americans? And before you think that it's a presumptuous thing to ask about, guys, again, I'm just asking because I'm genuinely curious, because I've come in contact with disdain for me from certain British citizens because I was American, and I said, you know what, rather than being silent about it and pushing it to the back of my mind, I'm just going to ask them outright, what do you all feel to me or towards us as Americans? Also, I understand that there are a portion of you that do not hate us. I know that not one British person speaks for all of us. I'm speaking for those who do feel any sort of discomfort towards us. I want to know, what do you feel and what sparked it? And before you get into any possible discomfort towards me or apprehension towards the subject, I want you to know where it really started from. This actually began ever since I was a little kid, actually. And when I was a little kid, you know how when you're a child, you watch sometimes TV that's too old for you, but it's the only thing that's on, so you watch it. And there was this one video, and it was a TV show. It was about people going on blind dates and people being matched up. And there was an American man who loved going out with women from different countries because he loved foreign accents. He thought they were very sexy. And so he went out on this blind date with this one woman from England, and she was gorgeous. And even as a little kid, I was like, oh, I would be surprised if he did not fall in love with her immediately. So they're going on the date, and they're out there sitting at the restaurant, they're talking, and out of nowhere, the English or British woman, she said, oh God, I hate Americans. And when you gotta understand, when you're a little kid and you hear that, it knocks you back. And he said, the guy on the date, he said, wait, what? She said, oh, I hate Americans. You know, a lot of us, English do. And he said, well, might I ask why? And she replied, because you Americans are just so lovey-dovey, like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And as a little child, you have to understand, from my mindset, I got the sense of she didn't like us from all that she gave off was because we were so jolly or so open about our jolliness. Either way, that was my first encounter with hearing a British person speaking in an interview. Of course, I saw British actors acting on TV every now and again, but I never saw a British person in an interview. So naturally, with this being the first British person I ever saw speak of their own, just basic conversation, it took me back, and it also unnerved me a bit, as it would to any child. But I grew up, and I think instead of getting stronger and just weathering these, sentiments, I got weaker as I got an adult, and I got more, easily affected by such comments. Because as I got older, as you guys have seen if you know my channel, I love the show Doctor Who. But every now and again, when I was watching Doctor Who, and I would go and watch British YouTubers who did videos here on YouTube of Doctor Who, I was always eager to hear what they thought of the show, Doctor Who, whether I agreed with them or disagreed with them. I loved hearing them speak. But then over time, I got less and less enchanted with them speaking, because oftentimes they would give these really snide or rude or offensive offhand comments to us Americans, where it seemed like we were not equal to them. We were a inferior race to them, or we were all very genuinely stupid. And one video, it was about this one guy, he usually did videos with two other people in Britain, but he sometimes would do videos himself. And in one video, he was talking of Series 1 and through 4 of New Who, and he got into topics of Series 1 and Series 2, which was Chris Eccleston and David Tennant's, first seasons. And he said, I absolutely hated the romantic, relationship between 10 and Rose Tyler and 9 and Rose Tyler, but that's America's fault. I totally blame America all for that. That's all their fault. And it just knocked me back. I'm like, how is it our fault? This was written by Russell T Davies, who, from what I've known, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is a Britishman. I'm like, how is that our fault if that was written by a British citizen? And the obvious thing was because America might have influenced Russell T Davies. He might have got influence from us, therefore it is automatically our fault. It is not the fault of that Britishman who did the whole arc for that season, because apparently he is not responsible for his own actions. And I'm going to say something from Henry V, written by William Shakespeare, when Henry was going about the camp. I'm not justifying the real Henry V. I'm just speaking about the guy in the play, the way he was depicted in the play. And he said when he was talking amongst his soldiers before the Battle of Azincourt, when they were saying that it's all the king's fault if we die tomorrow and our souls will be damned, and the king said back, "The king is responsible for himself, but every man's soul is his own." You are responsible for your own actions. The king is not responsible for your actions. Only you are responsible for your own sins, your own behaviors. And this goes back to something that we are often told as children. When you say, well, my friend did this, so I did it too. And often parents say back to the child, if your friend were to jump off a bridge, would you? The belief is, or the saying, or the implication is, if someone else does something, are you so blind, so weak, that you follow after them? And if you are, it is still your actions. You made the decision. It's all on you. So when I would hear people say, and it's happened a couple times where British people, when commenting on series 1 and 2 of New Who, they blamed us Americans for how the Doctor was presented in his romantic relationship with his teenage companion. But every man's soul is his own. A Britishman wrote this, or from what I've found about Russell, a Britishman. Even if he got influence from America, whether he did or not, this is him choosing to get influence. He is responsible for his own actions, this Britishman. And not only that, but it's also offensive to Russell, because you're saying that he is so weak, or you're saying that he is not ultimately strong enough to be responsible for his own actions. So not only are you offending us, you're offending the Britishman who is responsible for his own behavior. You can't go looking over the pond and blaming America for its influence if the Britishman chose of his own accord to do this himself. America had no direct influence on Doctor Who at the time, in the sense that America had no stake in Doctor Who. There was no American producers over the pond in Britain saying, you have to do Doctor Who this way. This was a Britishman choosing, if he did choose, to get inspiration from us, if he did choose to get inspiration from us. Every man's soul is his own. And then there's another British YouTuber who, when he was talking of Series 6 of New Who, he said about how, Series 6 is really bad because now they're trying to appeal to Americans. So now it's Americanized. Doctor Who is Americanized. It's awful. First of all, if you don't like America, fine. But don't do it in a way that makes you look stupid. Because this was really sad, because not only did this make no sense, because the Russell T Davies era had one season that had episodes in America and had American characters or American political figures in the season. So that season was just as American or appealing to Americans as Series 6. But also the next series after that had the idea of Americans coming to help Britain when its crisis. But then the adipose complex happened. So RTD was already trying to appeal to Americans. For you to get mad at Moffat for something RTD did as well, you look like a hypocrite. So you made yourself look foolish in that regard. I mean, not you, all British people. I'm talking about this British YouTuber and his desire to look down or be condescending to Americans. He ignored when Doctor Who did it already in the previous showrunners era. But here is something that's even scarier. This YouTuber showed he wasn't even conscientious of the history of Doctor Who, because Doctor Who has never been in any way anti-America or having any sort of anti-American sentiments or closing itself off to American influence. It's never been against that, because if you go back from the beginning William Hartnell's era, there was an episode that took place for a bit in America. Then the second Doctor's era. Also, before that, there was the 10th Planet, where the director of the 10th Planet specifically wanted to have an international cast to make everyone feel included, and that definitely included America in there as well when it came to the cast. The second Doctor's era, again, BBC appealing to Americans, there were American actors in, or at least British characters playing American characters. There was even, in the War Games, we see a reflection on an American character in the Civil War. Then we have in the third Doctor's era, where the third Doctor literally decided to bring a grinding halt to possibly any anti-American sentiments. The third Doctor, at some point, even made a declaration where he was not supportive of Britain excluding any other culture, and that also included America, where the idea of Britain solely for the British was not what the Doctor was about. Made it very clear that they thought America was just as integral to the world, or any country was just as integral to the world as they were. Because remember, the Doctor himself, while a British creation, he himself in all essentials is not British. He is Gallifreyan. He is a Time Lord. So he kind of comes down, when he comes to Earth, we're all Earthlings to him. So we're all equal in his eyes. So you have to understand the Doctor himself and Doctor Who has never been anti-American. It never has. In the 5th Doctor's era, the Doctor has an American companion, played by a British actress, but still an American companion. And even behind the scenes, you see certain actors in Doctor Who genuinely liking the idea of Americans watching Doctor Who. Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor, in the few times he was interviewed, one of his interviews was here in America. And well, also remember, Patrick Troughton received some of his education, I believe, here in America. But he made it very clear in his interview he wanted the idea and liked the idea of Americans watching Doctor Who, feeling a part of it. He liked the idea of us liking Doctor Who, wanted us to feel like it appealed to us and we were a part of it as well. He made it very clear in the interview. And then Colin Baker did similar things in his interview. He liked the idea of Americans trying to watch his stories even before they reached America, which there were. There were some Americans who were trying to get a hold of Doctor Who stories before it even was released here in America. He loved that. And he also even said, he's like, I'm not going to lie, if I have the money to retire and I get be completely luxurious about it, I want to move here to California because I love the idea, I love the feeling, I love the environment of this. So you have all these, not anti-American sentiments or idea of American inclusion in Doctor Who before New Who even began. To express any sort of judgment on Americans or any generalizations on us Americans, that is not what the Doctor was preaching about. Or at least I do not believe it's what he was preaching about. And again, I am not calling anyone in Britain toxic. And honestly, if you do not like us Americans, that's who you are, that's fine, that's you. I'm not going to call you toxic. I hate when people throw that word around. I just want to know, again, those of you who feel any apprehension towards us, I just want to know, do you feel it? What do you feel? And also, this is going to another thing that happened where I was watching, this is not Doctor Who related, I was watching another video here on YouTube by a British person, and again, this is just really terrible. Sorry, it just is. And even he, I think, realized it. He began to say about us Americans, when he was talking about a story that he liked being stationed in America, he said, okay, this is awkward to put, but you Americans, it's just like you are always, like, showing how, act like you're better than us, or you're showing how you're better than us, or you're always overshadowing us. And to show how much more powerful than you are than us by having this story here. And it occurred to him, I think, maybe that he was being kind of ridiculous, because there were even a couple of British people in the comment section who said, okay, the writer, the screenwriter, was British. They chose to put the story in America. No one held a gun over their head. They chose to put the story in America. They could have put it anywhere they wanted to. They chose to put the story here. How can you put this on Americans when this is a British person of their own free will choosing to write this script in America? They had all the power to have it stationed somewhere else. They wanted it to be America. How can you put this on Americans? Why are you bringing politics into this? Why? Why are you doing that? But I think he was aware that maybe that was going too far, because the next video he had an American, a friend of his who was American, come on the show with him to host it with him to show how he was not against us. So I think even he was aware. But still, that comment, the idea of, do you think that we are oppressing you in any way, shape, or form? Is that something you all feel? Let me know in the comment section, for better or worse. Even though it might hurt me to hear it, I'll still listen. And this is going to go back all the way to something that I mentioned earlier in my video. Because this is something I also want to know. When you guys make fun of us Americans and ridicule us and downplay us, when you do it in a comedy situation where it's just meant for comedy, okay, I understand, that's funny. Humor is meant to be like that. But and then I wondered, maybe is this somehow just how you guys speak sometimes? You don't know you're being offensive, or you don't mean to be offensive. This is something you guys speak and say every now and again. It's just part of your, lingo, your easy way of being. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I'm going back to what I said in the beginning of my video, when I was a child and I was exposed to that blind date where the British woman said to the American man on the date with him, she hated Americans. Well, when they were separated and they both were interviewed by the cameraman, they asked the guy first, would you go out with it on a date with her again? And he said, well, no, I wouldn't. And this was understandably so, because she didn't like him, because he was an American. So of course he was like, of course, no, I would not go on a date with her again, because, she doesn't like me. I'm an American. Then they interviewed her, and they asked her, would you go out on a date with him again? And she said, oh yeah, sure I would. And as a kid, I was like, what? And then I realized maybe that's just something you guys say. Like, you don't like Americans, you'll say it, but then you'll still date us. You'll still find us romantically desirable, or you will still befriend us. Is this just a part of your humor, or a part of just your lingo, where you say you hate us, or you make generalizations or mass generalizations about how we are as Americans, or you blame us for things that no, we're not even always to blame for. Yes, I know we do some things awful, but every country does some things awful. Every country has bigots, ignorant people. Every country has these things. So, but is this just how you guys, do you feel this way towards us, where you do not like us, but at the same time you do like us? What are you feeling? And the reason why I brought this video up is because recently, if you guys know me, you know that I deal with tourism, and some British persons, came over to America and said, no, I don't like you at all as Americans. I don't like you at all. It took me back, because I'm like, dude, I was just asking, I hope you enjoyed your time here. Wow, okay, buddy. Woo, this hurt me. That really hurt. But then a week later, I met another British person who was very nice. He was awesome. He was accommodating. And I said, you know what? I trust this man. I'm going to ask him, do you, as Brits, overall, do you guys not like us? Or there are some Brits who definitely do not like us Americans. And I said, or am I being too sensitive? Am I saying like sometimes these terms that are coming at us, or these things y'all say about us, are offensive? And he said, point blank, he was in his 60s or 70s, and he said, oh no, you said it, you asked me very respectfully, you are not being offensive, thank you for asking. He's like, your confusion is acceptable, because sometimes there are definitely us British people who like Americans. We do. We do not take on other British people's prejudice. Other times, we do make fun of you guys, but it's in a light, funny way. Just, don't take it personally. Other times, no, we're being offensive. He's like, no. There are some people, they are genuinely saying they don't like Americans for these reasons, and they're making a mass generalization about you. He said, you have to understand me, I never felt these things, these negativity towards you guys. But I come from a different generation. He said, I was born in the 60s. My first memory was of Kennedy dying. And Kennedy had an effect on us in Britain. But I came from two parents who were children during World War II, so they remember how American soldiers were our allies, came over, lived in British homes, and helped out in British shops, so that it was time to go over and fight during the war. They were our allies. And then I also came from a time where Britain was invading American culture as much as America was influencing British culture. We had Beatlemania. You were getting into our shows by the 70s. And there was also the peace and love era, which I was a part of. And Americans sometimes came over to Britain during the war, the Vietnam War, because they didn't want to avoid the draft. We were a haven. So I come from a time where we were allies. But also, I lived in America for a bit, so I I know that a lot of these generalizations and stereotypes that go on Americans are quite ignorant, to the point where there are sometimes people in Britain, they make fun of Americans, and I'm like, he's like, I say to them, it's obvious you've never been to America, or you don't really meet that many Americans, because they're not all like that. There are many different cultures in one environment. Each state has an identity. He's like, and I've dated American women. They're not what you think they are. They're different than how you label them. And he said, because he was very kind to me, he was a great British minister, and I realized maybe I did not put my guard down, because here on my YouTube channel, I've got a fantastic audience where you guys are the best, and I was worried that maybe by you guys being so awesome, maybe you guys, I was lured into a false sense of security, where you guys were awesome, but maybe I was, as an American, I was not wanted, or maybe going over to Britain is not a good idea, because maybe I am not going to be loved over there. But he said, no, we all are very different, we all have different ways of being. So he still encouraged me to go over there, but I'm just asking you, because I'm curious, what are you guys feeling towards us? I will love you anyway. I will always love Britain and be influenced by Britain. I will think Britain is a great place, despite if you do not like me back. Even if you don't, I think you are awesome. I think you guys are great. I just want to know what you guys feel towards us. And I'm asking calmly, respectfully, I promise, I don't think you are awful, no matter what. Even when you guys lose, if you don't respect me as an American, I still will choose to love you all anyway. I'm just asking because I'm confused. I am confused. But I have a right to be confused. I have a right to be ignorant of what it is here, because I'm not you, therefore I can't think for you. So I'll ask you what you think. Guys, thank you so much for watching my channel. Just, I'm willing to hear whatever you guys feel, for better or for worse. Just please try and be kind. Thank you guys so much. And again, I'll love you anyway. Bye, guys.